Good morning, everybody. I'm assuming that everybody has come into the meeting. I am going to switch over for a into my Wi-Fi. I am currently on my hotspot and I'm just going to disconnect my hotspot and connect to my
Okay, I think we've lost Sharon. Hi, everyone. She'll join us as soon as she can. Angelique, have we still got people coming in? Was everybody joined us? Pretty much everybody in yet?
Everybody is in, and the waiting room is disconnected, so they will automatically come in.
Well, welcome, everyone. It's Maryna Ritter speaking. As you know, I'm the treasurer of the ASDSA. Sharon will join us as soon as she can sort out her load shedding issues. It should be quite soon. Our keynote speaker today is Dr. J Reddy, Chair of SAQA. Dr. Reddy, thank you so much for taking the time. I think the topic that you're talking to us on is something that's vitally important and vitally interesting to our members. So we're very delighted to have you here, and we're listening with keen interest as to what you have to say. Dr. Reddy, are you ready to proceed, or do you need a few more minutes?
Hi, Andy, and good day, everybody. I'm ready to proceed, Andy, if you are.
Excellent. Then if you'd like to take over and share your screen, and we can go ahead.
All right, I'm not going to share my screen right now. I have some introductory remarks. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, I will share my screen in a little bit. So let me just start with that. So good day to you all, and thank you, the members of the Association for Skills Development in South Africa, for this opportunity to do the keynote address at your 2021 annual general meeting. We are all indeed facing unprecedented times with this relentless ravages of the pandemic. And I'm so glad that we still manage to continue with our lives through our collective grief over the loss of lives of our family and friends, interspersed with joyful and celebratory events. My brief today is to speak to you about micro-credentials as it relates to our NQF. I want to preface my presentation slides on this topic by sharing with you some relevant insights gained in my learning journey since joining SAQA in 2012. Sorry for that. This October is the beginning of my 10th year at SAQA. It has indeed been an interesting and challenging learning journey for me. And I must say I've learned much over the past 9 years. Overall, I have learned that the NQF is not static nor obsolete, but is being continually interrogated for relevancy and currency as new developments and challenges emerge both nationally and internationally. It is likely that the pace of change through your lens, as with all things linked to bureaucratic dispensations, is perceived to be slow and convoluted, and I'm not going to dispute that. So our NQF, over the 23 years of its adoption as the national framework for education and training in our country, has been subjected to vigorous interrogations and reviews. It was redesigned, as you know, in 2008, from an 8 to a 10 level differentiated qualifications framework with 3 distinct sub-frameworks. I'm not going into the details of the current framework on the assumption that you who work in skills development are familiar with it. So back to my learning journey at SAQA. 3 things have stood out which are directly related to the topic of micro-credentials and its relevance to our NQF that you asked me to speak on. Firstly, it is common knowledge that the higher education sector, since the inception of the NQF and the introduction of unit standards-based learning and the recognition of achievement, did not buy into the notion of breaking up and awarding whole qualifications into smaller parts. What has become abundantly clear is that the higher education sector was united and steadfast in its rejection of unit standards and skills programs, which had been widely embraced in the training and employment sector. Furthermore, after the NQF of 2008 was published, it had continued to reject the notion of designing and registering part qualifications on the NQF. This essentially means that when a learner enrolls for a 3-year bachelor's degree and decides to leave after completing only 2 years, she essentially leaves as a dropout with not much to show for her achievement in the 2 years that she studied. Because certification is only issued on completion and graduation from the full higher education qualification. The schooling sector is not much different, where you are only certified after writing a national exit exam after 12 years of schooling at grade 12. I do, however, note that this three-stream model that is being introduced will now offer an additional exit certificate at grade 9, our NQF level 1. Secondly, in my early years at SAQA, there was robust and bruising debates about the use of the term credential evaluation, used in evaluating foreign qualifications in the global space, and which is a foreign qualification evaluation is a key function of SAQA. I learned that the term credential was adopted and widely used by Europe and the US, and narrowly referred to the achievement of formal quality assurance and assessed whole qualifications, predominantly in the higher education space. So after much consideration, SAQA decided not to adopt the term credential evaluation for its foreign qualification function, because it considered its definition and application too narrow and conventional, and it did not resonate with our particular context and the work of SAQA. Lastly, I learned that the NQF Act of 2008 and the adoption of a 10-level framework with 3 sub-frameworks led to a shift to registered qualifications and part qualifications on our NQF, and that only the QCTO and skills and occupational sectors were enthused and bought into this idea of registering part qualifications. Interestingly enough, I also learned that what constituted part qualifications were essentially the previously termed unit standards. This clarified why part qualifications is defined as an assessed unit of learning. Having previously worked in the skills development space, I voiced serious misgivings about this definition and what it means to a learner, and the currency, for example, of a 3-credit unit standard describing the execution of one task, such as unblocking a jammed printer, being called a part qualification. But that is a debate for another time. Not surprisingly, this compromise of registering part qualifications was widely embraced by the skills and occupational sector who played in the OQSF space. However, the popular credit-bearing skills program achievements, which in my personal view is more of a part qualification in the skills development space than unit standards, did not enjoy the same status, because in some cases, it did not link directly to NQF registered qualifications. Therefore, these achievements are still being recorded on the NLRD as individual unit standard achievements, rather than as a coherent and meaningfully packaged programs of learning. Now, each of these 3 areas can take us off track into tangentially long discussions and robust debates. But my reason for bringing them up today is to provide you with the background and a historical context for the topic that I was briefed to speak to you about. I ask you to keep these three things in mind as I go through my presentation slides. All right, and you get a clear view and you can hear me, right?
Loud and clear, and it's a good view.
All right, okay, great. So let me move on from my cover. So the brief that was given to me is, how will we align micro-credentialing to the NQF so that it remains current and relevant? And what I want to do today, given the background that I've given you, is be quite provocative in my presentation today. So let me move on to what I'm going to discuss in my presentation. Firstly, I'm going to talk about what is a credential. Then I'm going to move on about how we walk the gravelly path to define micro-credentials in the global and local space. Then, where and how do micro-credentials fit into the South African NQF? And leave you with some concluding remarks, which are mostly questions. So what is a credential? I've looked it up, in Google, and I looked at the two popular dictionaries. In Oxford Languages, it says it's a qualification, achievement, quality, or aspects of a person's background, especially when used to indicate their suitability for something. I highlighted some of those things in red because I want you to keep that in mind as we go through the presentation. Secondly, from Cambridge, very similar definition. It speaks to the abilities and experiences. And again, it refers to suitability for a particular job or activity or proof of ability and experience. I also want you to look at the picture and keep this young man in mind who's playing the violin, because it does affect careers in the creative arts, people who are self-taught, self-learning, and how it leads to careers that might not be, the learning might not be in the formal space. So let's move on, given that definition of credentials, towards the definition of micro-credentials. Now, as I said, micro-credential derives from a background of credential evaluation and credentials, which are taken to mean formal qualifications. Also, in the European space, a very different, highly literate, sometimes homogeneous, and where qualifications plays a major role and formal education plays a major role. Micro-credentials is derived from that background. And it is referred to as short, transparently assessed course. There is the notion of flexibility, and it's primarily seen as upskilling or reskilling to meet labor market needs. Unesco more recently has convened an expert panel of international practitioners and looking to define what micro-credentials are. Given my reservations, I agreed to be part of this expert panel because I really wanted to touch base with what the discourse was internationally. And they have come up with the definition that includes certified achievement, very specifically that it's less than a formal full qualification, that it's owned by the person who achieves it, it is portable, it is shareable, and a very contested point about it must be quality assured. So I want you to also keep that in mind. And you will see for our local context in the South African column, the jury is still out. We are still engaging with this. Next, I'm going to move on to tell you about what is our NQF. I think most of you know this, but just to remind you, our NQF is a 10-level framework. It has 3 sub-frameworks: the general and education sub-framework, which is levels 1 to 4, the occupational qualification sub-framework, which is 1 to 8, the red line there, and the higher education sub-framework, which is from 5 to 10. You will see it in the diagram on the top. So what is it essentially? And how do micro-credentials, as it is used now in the global space, how does it fit in? So our NQF is a comprehensive system to classify, publish, articulate, and most importantly, register quality assured national qualifications. And included in national qualifications is also part qualifications. It is premised on transparency, but most importantly, it is to unlock recognition. So what do we have on our database, which we used to call the National Learners Records Database, but now referred to as the NQF MIS system, which I think really captures it better, because the achievement database, which the NLRD is only one database that we have on this management information system. Now, in this picture, I just want you to focus on the areas that are ringed in those circles. So the question I want to pose to you here, this is all the information that is contained in our management information system. On the top right-hand corner, you will see part qualification achievements that are captured on this database, over 114 million of this. The question I want to ask you is, do you consider these micro-credentials? Would you call these micro-credentials? They're assessed units of learning, they are quality assured, they are formally offered. Most of them are in the unit standards format. Then you have the other databases, professional designations and people with designations that are on the NQF. Now this, to my understanding, are not necessarily formally assessed, formally quality assured. They are linked to underlying registered qualifications on the NQF. Would you call these micro-credentials? And finally, people who achieve learning or unit standards or credits through RPL. Some of them are full qualifications and some of them are part qualifications. Are the part qualifications considered micro-credentials? So the question, do you consider this micro-credentials? And then my next question, if you do, then I would argue that we have already included micro-credentials using a different terminology or lexicon in our NQF. So for me, the question becomes, do we need to now join the pack and package the old wine into bottles with new labels? I will leave you to ponder that. Let me move on. I think this quote from Sean Gallagher is very important. He says that the traditional boundaries are blurring between professional development, occupational credentialing, and formal higher education. We are seeing the intensification of new forms of agreements around competence and status, including not only credentials, but also micro-credentials, nano degrees, and badges. And I want you to look at this quote in line with what I said about the hesitancy of the higher education space to adopt a system where we issue part qualifications or micro-credentials or parts of qualifications. So the question I'm posing here is, will the adoption of micro-credentials offer a more palatable menu to include recognition of credits, unit standards, and part qualifications in the schooling space and in the higher education space? Because so far, they have resisted the whole notion of part qualifications. I then want to draw your attention to the UNESCO pillars of lifelong learning. The 4 pillars are to know, to do, to live together, and to be. It is not only, as some of us think in the occupational space, learning is just for the purposes of work, to find a job. And sometimes what worries me are the qualifications being developed in this space are written as job descriptions. They're not producing holistic learners. So is there a place for micro-credentials in our NQF? Well, currently, the NQF with its 3 sub-frameworks is a register of quality assured national qualifications and part qualifications. If we agree that part qualifications are actually the same as micro-credentials, then they've already been included. It's just using different terminology. But we must remember that the NQF, although a relational construct, is a register of qualifications. So micro-credentials, which are perceived as digital, add to formal qualifications and statements of acknowledgement. That's what's in the literature. So my question that I'm posing, will we be capturing a generic term like credentials, which currently has wide scope and reach, by qualifying it and formalizing it? Because in my view, it has become the flavor of the time for the higher education global community. And my other concern is it has the potential to be used for opportunistic purposes. It'll now, in order to access this credential, learners are going to have to pay for it. Also, secondly, have we mindfully considered the implications of the somewhat narrow definition of micro-credentials for making visible and recognizing non-accredited and non-certified, non-formal and informal, also include self-learning credentials? So some additional questions I want to pose. Can a term like micro-credentials, which is globally branded and marketing and gaining much traction in the global north, where I've said already a credential usually refers to formally accredited and certified qualifications, will this address our particular challenges of reconsidering and advancing our NQF as a relational construct for the recognition of all, and I'm underlining and emphasizing, all learning, be it formal, non-formal, and informal? Or do we need to go back to the drawing board and carefully consider and design a homegrown solution and lexicon that better suits our particular needs and context? Now, I believe that we at SAQA and most of us are in the service of learners. So I just want to raise some learner considerations from their perspective. So some of the questions that I'm posing are, where will a learner's non-formal, informal credentials that lead to paid work fit in this new consideration of micro-credentials? Which learning credits or qualifications, be it short or long, assess, certified or not assessed, not certified, will be recognized to get me to sustainable livelihoods? How much will this formalization of my learning cost me, and how will it be funded? What will be the value add, and who will benefit from aligning micro-credentials to our NQF if we believe it's not already there? How will the adoption of the term micro-credentials make our NQF more current and relevant? And finally, how will its success impact be measured? So my next slide I want to pose, I've got 4 pictures. And in these 4 pictures are people who don't necessarily follow the formal qualifications route. You will see a farmer there who is probably supplying his produce to Woolworths, and his credential is he's a self-taught farmer. And I think he has earned that credential because it has led to his recognition and paid employment. A self-taught violinist who's playing in a philharmonic orchestra on the basis of going to an audition and being selected. I've now learned that DJing is a real sought after skill, mostly self-taught and not formalized. And then you have many people in our communities who are self-taught tradespeople, artisans, although, you know, they're not allowed to use that language, who are welders, skilled, providing skills and services in their particular communities. So the question I'm posing is, what will the formalization of credentials with its qualifier micro mean for the recognition of credentials and indication of suitability for these type of people showcased here, who might not necessarily have formal or quality assured credentials and or micro-credentials? So some other, now I want to go back, and I'm almost done within my 30 minutes. So I'm going back to the question that you posed to me. How will we align micro-credentialing to the NQF so that it remains current and relevant? So I'm going to just share with you some next steps. So we at SAQA, as the custodians of the NQF, and very importantly in the service of lifelong learning and learners, we are engaging very deeply with this issue at both local and international levels, as I have told you and shared with you, and as part of a broader review process. At the end of the day, we must make informed choices based on evidence-based research, which address our context and our stark realities of our country. For example, our low literacy levels, our multilingualism, our unemployment rates, our economic crisis. I can go on and on. So what I want to say is that with the second SAQA board in place from January this year, we have already initiated a process to reposition SAQA to critically review the NQF Act and the framework in terms of currency and relevance. Should it continue as a qualifications, part qualifications framework, or should we expand it to become a qualifications and credits framework like the Scottish system? Would it work for our contextual needs and realities? Should we add a fourth sub-framework where non-formal and informal learning achievements are recorded against a person's name? The broader, expansive notions of credentials within which micro-credentials will fit, but broader than micro-credentials, all kinds of learning will be made visible and recognized. Lastly, the SAQA board chair, Dr. Lalwana, has already initiated a series of public engagements and consultations to see how we might reimagine our national qualifications framework. I would really like you to join us on this journey. So the question is, from the picture, do we continue on the same path, or do we take a diversion and reconsider how the NQF fits into our national space to meet the needs of our lifelong learners, and how it can fit into these international discussions and conversations? Finally, I am sharing with you our contact details. Feel free to contact me, and I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy. I really appreciate you taking the time to share all of your information and be our keynote speaker for today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm sorry that I lost connection at the beginning of the session. I was coming out of my load shedding in Durban. I didn't have a chance to actually introduce Dr. Reddy, so I'm going to do that now quickly for our ASDSA members. I have a short biography that I was given by Dr. Reddy a couple of years ago. It was when we were first introduced at our first meeting, and I'm going to take Dr. Reddy back a couple of years ago. I was the KZN chairperson for the ASDSA. As a new KZN chairperson, I took a chance and I phoned SAQA and I said to SAQA, please, can we have a guest speaker for our regional meeting in KZN? And to my absolute delight, Dr. Reddy was quite happy to put up her hand and come down to KZN and actually be a guest speaker for us. And she sent us a short biography. So I'd like to read that out. And we were absolutely thrilled that she was happy to come and be a guest speaker for us. So I'm just going to read out very briefly her short biography that she sent to us. So Dr. Reddy actually joined SAQA in 2012. She was the Deputy Chief Executive Officer at that stage. She is now the CEO of SAQA. She was made the CEO recently after the previous CEO resigned. And prior to joining SAQA, she was the owner and managing director of Africa Skills Development for 9 years. In 2009 and 2010, she was contracted to develop a business model and establish the Tabiso Skills Institute, linked to the Catholic Institute of Education, and served as its founding director. Dr. Reddy also served as founding CEO of the Chemical Industries Education and Training Authority and CEO of the Sector Education and Training Authority for Secondary Agriculture. Over a period of 6 years prior to her skills development involvement, she was the country director and chief party for USAID funded technical support program for NGOs and government department in South Africa. Dr. Reddy's academic qualifications include a master's degree as a Fulbright scholar and a PhD from Cornell University in the USA. So she's quite a learned academic, as well as very, very skilled and competent when it comes to the skills development landscape. So again, Dr. Reddy, I would like to say thank you so much for taking the opportunity to say yes to coming and speaking at our ASDSA AGM. We do appreciate you saying, and it was a very quick yes from Dr. Reddy. I must tell all of our members, it was a very quick yes from Dr. Reddy when we asked her to be our guest speaker and keynote speaker. So thank you again for taking the time and speaking to us. I just want to open the floor quickly. I know, Dr. Reddy, you posed a couple of questions in your presentation to our members. And I'd like to open the floor now to see if any of our members had any questions that they wanted to pose to Dr. Reddy, or any information that they wanted to ask. Okay, so I'm going to read the first question. Or Andy, would you like to read the questions out for us?
Question from Celestine Mayombe. I could not understand how SAQA planned to recognize non-formal education skills acquired from our uncles and friends.
Thank you for that question. Look, there are different forms of recognition, and I think we need to understand RPL is an alternative route. So if RPL is recognition of prior learning and people have followed a different pathway than formal education to learning, right? This could be assessed and formalized through portfolios of evidence and assessment and certified. We know this is happening in the skills development and other spaces. Another way to recognize learning, and I'm going to use, Celestine, maybe an example. You might have learned to play the piano or to sing from your uncles and friends, right? And I am talking now about a credential. And that, if you are good at what you do and it leads to a job, that is a credential you have earned. It might not be quality assured, it might not be assessed, it might not be formalized, but it is a form of recognition, because when you are allowed to use it, for example, if you are allowed to be part of an event or sing to the president of the country or at an event, it is a recognition of your learning. And what I have been saying is the NQF is not a static construct. It's a construct that relates to all type of learning. They are formalized and quality assured and accredited learning, and there is non-formal and informal learning, which we need to make visible and recognize. And that's the point I am making.
I agree. I think that's a very good point, Dr. Reddy. I think we do need to recognize the non-formal and informal learning. And I think that there's not enough information around recognition of prior learning, as well as credit accumulation and transfer. A lot of people don't understand that concept of accumulation of credits and constant credit transfers and accumulation and migration of credits, horizontal and vertical articulations. We need to be speaking a little bit more about how those can actually take place. So we'll also create awareness from our side with regards to those concepts.
Then okay. A further question coming up from Timothy Fashoon. Where does natural talent come in? Do we formalize that via RPL?
So Timothy, I think what I had tried to show in my presentation, that not all learning needs to be formalized, but it is up to the learner if they want to formalize. The issue I was posing is, does only formalized learning deserve the title credential? And in your CV, your natural talent, I know people who send me CVs, they put in their formal qualifications, and at the bottom, they talk about other achievements, and they talk to their sporting talents, their musical talents, their gardening and other social activities that they do. Now, in many cases, people leave the formal world of work and pursue careers using these natural talents. And so the issue I was trying to raise is, must all credentials be formalized, be called micro-credentials, in order for them to be recognized and lead to meaningful recognition? So that's the point I was trying to raise.
I think it's a very valid point as well. I think a lot of us start our careers out with a specific formal education, but migrate as you're going and gaining your experience in the industry, you sort of migrate into a different career and don't have the formal learning for that career that you're migrating into. So I think that's a very good question that you posed, Dr. Reddy. Andy, I think there's a couple more questions there.
Yes, there are two quite long questions, so just bear with me. Firstly, from Josie Singaram. She says, the issue of upskilling included in the definition has important considerations for how we consider micro-credentials, as the design of qualifications are limited to the scope of the qualification. In the Unesco's qualification skills programs are limited, in the US, qualification skills programs are limited to the outcomes of the qualification, where skills programs may be broader and span qualifications depending on the purpose and the context intended. In HE, qualification modules need to be recognized by the Senate if linked to a qualification. Lifelong learning is key, and micro-credentials must speak to formal and non-formal or informal, and the issue of upskilling is about purpose and need and context required. It is a moving target. So I think it's more of a comment rather than a question. J Reddy, do you want to respond in any way?
Yeah, Josie, I completely agree with you. And I think you were talking about unit standards-based qualifications. So I think the issue here is, you know, the whole debate around full qualifications, whole qualifications that the higher education space argues for, and then the recognition of parts of a qualification, part qualifications, and a modularized system of qualifications which learners can do over a period that might culminate in a full qualification, but not necessarily so. Now, in the world of work, what we are seeing very clearly is we need almost like supply chain management, a just-in-time solution. So there is a very definite need for these short skills programs that meet the changing world of work. Workers do not have the luxury to sit in a 3-year program. They need interventions that enable them to move in this very changing, technologically fast-moving world. So do we offer learning in bite-sized chunks? And does it always have to be formalized? We do know that a lot of the IT training being offered by Google and other IT companies are not necessarily accredited and formalized, but it is what's leading to employment in that sector because it addresses that workplace needs. And I think that's a very, very important consideration.
Yes, I agree with that.
Then from Karen Badham, a comment: it is very difficult to recognize all non-formal learning. Learning is happening at a very fast rate in order to keep up to speed. SAQA needs to have a fast and easy process to recognize micro-credentials. If it is a long and complicated process, it will not work. The nature of NQF accreditations is to handle the bigger formal qualifications. Your LinkedIn profile is where you can post that you have a few non-formal certificates, attended webinars, etc. Recognition does not need to be through, maybe that means thorough, need to be through NQF. Society recognizes learning and skills. Again, it's a comment, not a question. I don't know, Dr. Reddy, if you want to make any further comments around that.
I agree, but you know, the point I was making is, do we need to adopt the term that is being used in Europe and North America? You know, for me, do we need to adopt the term micro-credentials? And the whole debate is because we are registering part qualifications. Now, I'm not sure that that is the right terminology. Maybe it should be parts of qualifications, right? And recognition does not always have, I argue, recognition does not have to be formally assessed, formally quality assured, and necessarily lead to credits and qualifications. You can have non-credit bearing learning and you know, skills programs that meet certain needs. In fact, very many of the universities over these years have been offering non-credit bearing short programs. The business schools, for example, the entrepreneur, you know, the short learning programs that universities offer. You can have learning and recognize it without it being part of the formal academy. So my question is, and the thing I'm grappling with is, are we giving a new terminology because it's in the global space to something that we are already doing and recognizing? Do we need to revisit our NQF to be more expansive and meet our needs, to change it and say a qualifications and a credits framework so that the credits get registered against the person, or a qualification and skills programs or part of qualifications. And that's the debate I'm trying to get into. I really would like us not to be bogged down into international discourse lexicons that actually take us backwards. I want us to move forward.
Then there are more messages coming in, and I think, Sharon, you must guide us around time.
Yes. Well, it is.
Yeah.
It's 10 to 1 now, and we have an hour and a half set aside. I'm going to need at least a half an hour. So let's take a couple more comments and then we'll start with the chairperson's address.
Okay, cool. And Sibiwe Shabalala, question, RPL is solution to align the learning and development initiatives to obtain all the credentials and related accreditation. RPL need to be activated to enable various fields to be formal and meet micro-credential status. Dr. Reddy, any comment on that?
Yeah, Simpiwe, the problem is, oh, sorry, I'm looking at something else. Okay. Yeah, look, the reality is that much of the RPL and the achievements I was showing you, over 100,000 achievements through RPL, this is very laudable in a country like ours. And 95% of those RPL achievements are in the occupational space and in the CETA space. And that's something we must celebrate. The higher education space has been very reluctant to adopt RPL, to implement RPL, even though we have national policies, they have put certain obstacles in that place. And because there is a general perception that RPL is a freebie, that RPL is a less than, there is no parity of esteem, I think there's a lack of basic understanding that assessed RPL is against a registered equivalent qualification on the NQF. The learning outcomes are made visible in a learner's portfolio of evidence. And so when you get assessed based on your RPL learning journey, it means you are being assessed against the same assessment and outcome standards that a learner in the formal academy is being assessed against. So we must celebrate RPL achievements. It's an alternate learning pathway, but it's not an alternate and less than recognition status.
Agreed.
We must also understand, and I think somebody said that these RPL achievement comes against huge obstacles and, you know, challenges for the learners. And it is an expensive exercise because it needs to be mediated. You can't do this without funding allocated to make RPL more implementable in this country. Thank you.
Perfect.
Sharon, you must just guide on timing.
Yeah, it's 10 to, we've got a, yeah, we can take 1 or 2 more comments. I think most of the consensus in the comments is that there is agreement about RPL and there's an agreement about the NQF to be more expensive and to change with the time. So I think Karen had alluded to that. And Jonathan had just said that he'd made a comment about why does it need to be recognition of learning? What if the focus was on recognition of competence and capabilities? And I like that comment. I think that was a very fit for purpose comment. So we recognize the competence and capabilities of the person and not look at, you know, where it aligns to a credit or a unit standard. So that was very that was very apt. I think we should move into our keynote address so that we are into into our chairperson's report, because we are running out of time, and then we can always come back to any further questions that our members have and pick that up at the end of the chairperson's report. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Reddy. I really appreciate it. Are you going to be staying with us for the remainder of the AGM meeting?
Yeah, I'll stay for part of it. Thank you very much. And thank you, Sharon, for the opportunity, and good luck to you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so let's move into the chairperson's address. I just wanted to make note of one thing that we hadn't alluded to right at the beginning as I got disconnected. At the end of our session, this session does allow you to gain your 1 CPD point. So please look out for the link in the chat box right at the end of the session. Click on that link so that you can get your or earn your 1 CPD point. Please remember that for me. All right, thank you very much. Okay, welcome to everybody. I just want to give a warm welcome again to all of our members, our designees, my dynamic and small and fantastic team that work with me, as well as my assistants in the background, my IT assistants, as I would call him, our National Treasurer, Andy, and our very competent and capable Angelique Banner that works in the background for us, doing all the wonderful things that she does for us. So let's just move into what we're going to be covering today in the address. I'm just going to be covering our strategic direction, what we set out to do before in the previous years, what we changed, our accomplishments and automation, our social media and what we undertake on our social media platforms, the engagements and proposals, lobbying and advocacy that we've covered, the development of our professional designations, our member development, the various committees that we have, our office bearers and contractual staff, as well as our current board, our resigned board members, and our replacement board members. The replacement board members will be addressed in a presentation by our company secretary shortly after my address. And then we will cover the surveys that we have undertaken this year, as well as our member trend analysis. In 2017 and 2018, we set out to develop strategic objectives for the ASDSA. And those strategic objectives were to grow the membership of the ASDSA, to build a strong community of like-minded skills professionals, skills development professionals, to establish our leadership and position in the skills development landscape, and to recognize and develop the standards of professional practice in the skills development landscape. And that focus has been one that we developed with Jill Connellan and with Bridget McGilroy right in the beginning, and they, as founding members, assisted us to develop those strategic objectives, and they are still relevant today. We've used them since we developed them in 2018, and we continue to build on those strategic objectives. The direction that we follow is that we like to look at our professional recognition of our practitioners in the skills development landscape, and we are continually looking at how we undertake our processes, what our documentation looks like, and how it fits into the occupational sector, and we are continually reviewing that. What our value add to our members are and how we can continually improve that value add to our members, how we are developing our professional designations and our professional designees, and how we are engaging with the various organizations that we need to engage with to ensure that we are advocating for our members, our designees, and the general skills development landscape. So initially, what we set out to do before COVID hit, because our last AGM was in February of 2020, and exactly 37 days later, the COVID pandemic hit. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to form a sales and marketing committee. We wanted to expand our designations. We wanted to upskill our designees and our members. We also wanted to provide an advertising platform and a vetting service for training providers and skills development consultants. After the pandemic hit, we had to have a look at how we were going to restructure this. So the world basically stood still, and forming a sales and marketing committee was not going to be feasible for us. So we looked at rather putting in place a service level agreement with somebody that could undertake engaging with various organizations to work on that. Sorry, guys, I'm not too sure why it is skipping ahead. We only then implemented sales and marketing because, as we all know from COVID, the world of working shut down and nobody was operating for quite some time, no training happening, and our designations also stood still, and quite a number of our members were in a state of disarray. We couldn't do any upskilling of our designees, and again, everybody was in a little bit of a state of disarray. The advertising of our training providers and our consultants was also not something that we could do because, again, everybody was basically shut down for approximately 3 months of that year. So what we needed to do was we had to look at how we were going to change the new normal. We consolidated all of our face-to-face regional meetings that we were holding in Johannesburg, Gauteng, the Gauteng region, and the KZN region and the Western Cape region onto a virtual national event. And we started holding those as a collective event. We added on our conversations with the ASDSA with various keynote speakers, and that was a joint venture that was started with John Arneson and Andy Reinecke and has become very popular. We stepped up our engagement with our various stakeholders because we realized that now was the time when everybody was actually not at work, not engaging, not too busy. So that's when we started speaking to the C2 CEOs and engaging with the DHET and speaking to the various national skills authorities and the other professional bodies. So that stakeholder engagement started picking up a little bit of momentum. That also increased our lobbying and advocacy, again, with the other professional bodies. So that's how we started increasing all of the areas that we were not focusing all of our attention on. We also looked at how we could revise our systems and procedures and looked at how we could streamline our operations and our expenditure, because as COVID hit, we realized that some of our members were going to either close down or have diminished sales, and that we could possibly lose some of our members. So immediately we looked at how we could streamline our expenditure, but we also at the same time needed to look at how we could market ourselves a little bit better and look at how we could increase our sales efforts to ensure that we could make up for any of the members that we lost over that very difficult period. So this change brought about quite a bit of new things for us and did open our eyes to a couple of different things. So what we then saw happening was that what we were undertaking by changing that virtual platform is that we managed to undertake a lot more engagement with our members. We held 7 virtual events at the beginning of 2021 to date. We've had to date in 2021 15 virtual conversations, and you can see the reach that we currently are managing to engage with. 310 members engaged with from just our virtual events. 386 members engaged with from just our virtual events. We've undertaken 10 planning exco meetings. We've had 8 regional planning meetings. We've also published in the SAQA bulletin. They've just published their SAQA bulletin for 2021, and we've been engaging with SAQA since 2020. And I think it is 4 of our master skills development, our masters have actually contributed to that paper, including myself, who is a skills development practitioner. So we've been included on the SAQA bulletin. We've also, with the assistance of Angelique, who is our marketing and systems officer, she has done a lot of automation. So she's looked at the current platform that we have, and she has automated and put a lot of set up systems in the back end and improved our functionality of our member database. So specific checks and balances have been put in place, automation of specific processes, notifications of when your membership is lapsing, notifications of when your CPD points are due. So those automations and online setups we've been working on those since COVID hit. So those are very important functionalities that have assisted us in the background. We've also submitted 9 proposals to various different seaters, as well as to 2 corporates. We'll go through those shortly. And we've also signed 2 MOUs, one with APID and one with SABPP. From an automation perspective, we also had a look at, instead of having annual fees that members would have to pay, because from one of our surveys, we had seen that some of our members were struggling. They had little to no business coming in, and they had communicated with us that had the landscape not changed because of lockdown, being at level 5 and then only moving to level 4 after 3 months, they were having serious challenges. So our exco got together and we decided to have a look at putting together a debit order system for our members to ensure that they would have a much easier payment method. Instead of having a singular payment once a year, we've now got a debit order system that has already been implemented, so that we've got a much smaller fee that you can pay over a monthly basis. And that's already been rolled out and introduced to our members. So for those of you that don't know about our debit order system, please contact our accounts department and they will advise you how that debit order system works. It generally works for all of our new members and upon renewal of your membership. Then the automation that we've implemented on our systems are as follows. It's our online membership and designation applications that feed directly into our database and directly to your member profile. Our online voting with direct voting linked to the member profile, which allows reporting for us to draw directly from the online platform. We currently use the Zoho platform, so it gives us a lot of functionality and reporting. The CPD points for webinars. So the link that we post in the chat box today, as soon as you click on that link, it will automatically again link to your profile and send you the notification which you can keep for your CPD points. So the record keeping capability is there that has already been designed for you. So virtual events are linked to specific CPD points, and you can get what we would call formal recognition or formal verification of your CPD points. Automated CPD notification reminders. So those reminders are already set up on our system, and Angelique manages all of those at set intervals. Then we have got a very robust social media engagement and platform. So what I did was I went and had a look, and from time to time I go and have a look at how many of these events we have posted on YouTube. So we've done a video on how to become an ASDSA member, which we've posted on YouTube. We have a YouTube account and we've posted numerous videos on our YouTube page. So please go and have a look at what we've got posted there. We've designed videos around our portfolio building workshops. So we've done a specific webinars and recorded those and posted those for ease of our members of how to build your portfolios. We've done 3 webinars around CPD points and how to complete your CPD record card, what CPD points are, why you should be doing your CPD points. And we've actually hosted 3 of those this year. Myself and Andy have done those presentations. You'll see the recordings have also been posted on our YouTube page. So very informative videos that we are posting. We are also going to be looking at doing shorter videos because we realize that when we do webinars, they are 30 or 40 minutes long. We're going to be looking at instructional videos that are very short and to the point, that are a little bit, like 5 or 10 minutes long for our members that are a little bit easier access. Our WhatsApp, one of our absolutely fabulous wins that we have. This is a platform that we use extensively. It is very well run and managed by Angelique and Maryna. They are our two stars that run this WhatsApp group, and it gives a wealth of information from anything that is happening in the sector, from whatever is posted on the various platforms, the SETA platforms. So if there's expressions of interest, if there is discretionary grant funding that is opening, notifications from the SETAs, if there is any documentation or government gazettes or notifications, they will all be posted on the WhatsApp group so that you can download that immediately. And for those of you that don't know, you can get WhatsApp that is downloaded on your desktop, so you can easily download it to your computers, save the documents into folders and open them up on your desktops. It's a very interactive platform, so that is helping us a lot to stay in touch. And the person that manages that is Maryna, and she does a fantastic job. When we were undertaking our workplace skills plans and annual training reports in April and May, the interaction that we had amongst our SDFs was evident on that group. When somebody was having a challenge, our SDFs were chatting to each other and saying, I'm having a challenge on this SETA platform, please assist me. What do I need to do? And immediately there was an answer from one of our other members saying, try this, do this, escalate to that person. And you could clearly see that the communication between our SDFs was robust, and we were a community that were assisting each other. And that's exactly what we wanted to ensure that we had. So that is working very well for us. Our Facebook page is also very robust, and we also, again, mirror what we're doing on our YouTube and our LinkedIn and our Twitter pages. So we post our discretionary grant applications that are opening. We put in all of our conversations, any of our videos, all of our notifications for any of the topical information that we have, and any information that is pertinent to our members that is within our MOU space. So anything that is posted from APED, anything that is posted from SABPP that relates directly to skills development, we will post on our Facebook page as well, and our WhatsApp group, so that our members are informed about those. And we try and share as much information as we can, keep our members informed. And just importantly enough as well, our WhatsApp group is only for our paying members, so only our members get that information. The proposals that we've submitted this year, these are formal proposals that we have submitted to various organizations. So we've done formal proposals to the services SETA, in SETA, P-SETA, our secondary proposal, so that's phase 2 for the LG SETA for the 3-year period 2021 to 2024. It is in the final stages of vetting. Bank SETA, FP&M SETA, WNR SETA, and our 2 corporates that we've done proposals to is First National Bank and Absa Bank. The lobbying and advocacy that we've done this year is the SETA CEO Forum engagement that we've undertaken. There's bargaining council engagement that is undertaken from Maryna's side, which she shares the information with us. We've met with the DG for Skills Development. We've met with the DHET as an introductory session. Myself and Andy have undertaken that. We've engaged directly with the services SETA and bank SETA CEOs regarding system issues and member issues, which we've escalated as well to the DHET. We've engaged with SAQA on various platforms. So myself and Andy sit on the SAQA QSST RPL work group to review the RPL policy. We've also responded to the DHET on the RPL coordination policy. We've escalated the fake certificates on the website to SAQA, as well as updated our designation. All 3 of our designation descriptions on the SAQA website have been updated this year, which we have requested these updates to the SAQA board. So those are our lobbying and advocacy that we've undertaken this year. Just to give you a quick overview of our 3 professional designations, we have 3. It's the Skills Development Technician, our Skills Development Practitioner, and our Skills Development Master. What we've done from a skills development professional designation perspective, so like I've alluded, we have updated all 3 of these professional designations. So we've looked at our professional designation descriptions, and we have made some serious changes to those designation descriptions. We've changed things like CPD points. We've made changes to parts of those designation descriptions, and we have submitted all of those changes to the SACWA board for them to approve those changes. That formal request was sent to SACWA in April of 2021, and it goes to the Directorate of Registration and Recognition, and they update us on a regular basis when they sit and when they approve those changes. Our CPD program is in full swing now. It is formally monitored on a monthly basis at our EXCO meeting that we hold, and it is reported back on every member that has submitted their CPD points. For those members that have not submitted their points, we have a champion that contacts the members that don't understand how to submit the CPD points or have not completed their CPD points. And so that program is now running effectively, and we're happy with how we've progressed. We have changed the CPD record card to make it a little bit simpler, and we will revise that again towards the beginning of next year. All of our members are advised in advance when the CPD points are due. Our CPD points for designees are 30 CPD points per annum, and they are due at your designation renewal dates when your designation fees are due. All assistance is given to members. So myself, Andy, and any of our designated members mentor our various other members that are not familiar with the CPD points or the CPD record cards, and we are at any given time we mentor the members that are not familiar with those CPD record cards and assist them to complete those record cards. We do that on a regular basis. CPD is a SACWA requirement, and like we say, we report that at our monthly EXCO, and we have already designed our RPL for a designation. Andy has designed this, and we are ready now to pilot the first RPL for a designation. So the candidates have been selected, and we should be undertaking that program shortly. The member development that we undertake, currently the monthly portfolio building workshop for our members is undertaken by Andy and Angelique. We have run 3 CPD workshops this year. The evaluator and verifier development has already been undertaken this year, and we will rerun this program again. The technician, practitioner, and master designations working group, after the revision of our designation portfolio, we've already run that program this year, but we will rerun all of these programs next year again as well. And we will rerun a program where we will request from our members if they want to participate in running through a designation and how to gain a professional designation, what the merits of getting a professional designation are. Our various committees that we have. So we have 3 committees in place. We have our certification committee, our technical committee, and our regional committees. Our regional committees currently are KZN, Gauteng, and Western Cape, as well as our Southern Cape and Eastern Cape. And I would like to just say a very big thank you to those chairs, vice chairs that are sitting on those regional committees. They give their time freely. They do so with a lot of enthusiasm. They are constantly looking for new ways how they can engage with the members. And I just want to also say thank you to those guys for always being available and ready and willing to engage. Thank you very much for all of the time that you serve on our regional committees, putting together those regional committees and engaging with our members. It's very important to us, and you are very, very valued. Our technical committee works a little bit differently. So how this works is that most of our master designees co-opt onto our technical committee as and when we have something that arises. So if there's a call for comment that is in a specific space or there's research to be done, we will approach the relevant master designee and ask for their assistance, and those that are available will co-opt onto a technical committee forum, and then those of us will work together and formulate the response that goes to the various stakeholder that we need to engage with. And the technical committee generally engages with the CETAs, the QCTO, DHET, the Department of Labor, SAQA, NEDLAC, and the National Skills Authority. We are still working on trying to become an active member on NEDLAC and the National Skills Authority. We are already engaging aggressively with SAQA, the Department of Labor and the DHET, as well as QCTO and the CETAs. So it's not an easy task to be on the forums with NEDLAC and their National Skills Authority, but we have put an expression of interest into all of those parties. Certification committee is managed by or overseen by Andy, and the certification committee oversees our professional designations, that development and review, our CPD procedure and policy with all the records, and it is annually and monthly monitored and reported on. We also undertake critical skills letters with a procedure and policy there, and our board exam for our master's designations has been finalized, reviewed, and ratified, and is in an ongoing review process. Then our office bearers currently are myself as the chairperson and technical committee convener. Maryna Ritter is our company secretary and the Western Cape chairperson, and Maryna Ritter is our treasurer and certification committee chairperson. The contractual staff that we have, and the only staff that we actually remunerate in the organization currently, are our assessors and verifiers, and we have 3 verifiers who verify across the designations. We've got 3 master designation evaluators, we've got 5 practitioner technician evaluators, and we've got 1 critical skills evaluator. Our operations and marketing systems officer is Angelique Banner, and our bookkeeping and membership administrators are Tracy Fanikak and Kristen Jones. So currently our board members are Andy Reinecke, Professor Johan Maria, Timbi Chakonda, myself, Sharon van den Heever, Maryna Ritter, and Jonathan Brauns. And the 2 board members that have resigned are John Arneson and Dr. Michelle Serfontaine. So one of the feedback questions that we had from our survey that we recently did for the AGM was that we hadn't given feedback to our members on the CETA Code of Conduct, as well as the other 2 surveys that we had undertaken in the past year and a half. So we've done a little bit of a survey feedback for our members. So in the first survey that we undertook, which was the CETA Code of Conduct, we had out of 149, we had at that stage approximately 300 members. We received 46 of 149 responses received. So there was a 31% participation. 76% of the surveyed participants had not signed a code of conduct with the relevant CETAs. So from this perspective, I think that it is very important that we address this issue with the CETAs. The CETAs, if they are engaging with SDFs, the SDFs should sign a code of conduct. And one of the ways that the SDFs can sign a code of conduct is ensuring that they are an ASDSA member. 57% of these are a training provider that also undertake SDF services for their clients. So I think that it is important that there is a code of ethics with regards to being a training provider and also being an SDF, because there could be some ethical issues there. As long as there is a code of conduct and that there are clear guidelines with regards to being a training provider and a skills development practitioner, or professional, I think that is something that we need to have a look at. And then 70% of these members said that if they had to split their SDF and training provider functions, this would have a negative impact on their income, and the direct result would be that their portfolio would be limited and their income would be limited. So I think that that was a very interesting survey for us to do. It's also something that we should highlight with the CETAs, that there is a number of our members that have both portfolios. So that was the feedback from the first survey. The second survey that we did was 420 surveys were circulated and 79 responses were received from that survey, which is a 19% participation. So what we surveyed here was just a member statistic, having a look at what our demographic was, just to understand better who is the demographic of our members. Do they have designations? Don't they have designations? Are they training providers? And where do these demographics land? So we know what we need to be presenting in workshops and those kinds of, sorry guys, it keeps on jumping a little bit ahead. So 30% of those 79 responses were not members, 58% of them were female, 56% of them were BEE candidates, 11% were non-accredited training providers, and 23% were accredited training providers. 25% had a designation and 25% did not, but 50% of them did not respond. An average of 37% of these SDFs were facilitators, assessors, moderators, mentors, and coaches. 20% were HR and employment and BEE specialists. 38% of them were interested in the SDF qualifications and wanted also to have the facilitator, assessor, moderator qualification. And 17% of those also wanted to have an HR and employment equity and BEE qualification, which tells me that they wanted to be a generalist. They wanted to be SDF, facilitator, assessor, and also do HR. So it looks to me like a lot of organizations are having multitask or multifaceted positions. The top 3 issues that were reported said that there were not enough experienced SDF staff. There were numerous LMS and CETA problems. 33 to 44% of the survey people said that that was a major issue. Workplace skills plans issues. 32% of the surveyed members said that they had workplace skills plans issues. And 75% of these surveyed members said they submit workplace skills plans and annual training reports. 62% said they were consultants, SMMEs, or EMEs. And most of the demographic that we are currently surveying are saying that they are small entities, most of the demographic. So that is what I'm seeing as a trend from our members. 30% are corporates and medium enterprises, and only one company was a blue chip or large listed organization. The COVID issues that were reported was a 32% increased turnover or stayed the same. 57% of our members, so 79 of those members that were surveyed, 57% of them declined in turnover between 25 and 75%. And 11% completely closed and were looking for alternative work. 42 of them were in imminent danger of closing had COVID not changed. And this survey was done approximately October, November last year. So that was already when we had started coming out of our level 3, level 2. That was the stage that we were at that stage. So it will be interesting to see if any of those clients, and I know we've lost a significant number of members. So I'm assuming that that is the reason why we have lost some of those members. Interested in the following services. So what we are looking at providing is a training provider database, e-learning and anything to do with e-learning. So, learning, any upskilling on e-learning, courses on Zoom and MS Teams were some of the feedback that we wanted, or that the members wanted us to give them. Then just a member trend analysis. Our largest region is Gauteng. Our secondary region is KwaZulu-Natal, with our third biggest region being the Western Cape. Eastern Cape follows on with that, and Mpumalanga is our next largest region. We've also received a expression of interest from 2 candidates in the Mpumalanga region and 2 candidates in the Limpopo region that they would like to be regional chair people. We will be following up with them after the AGM to co-opt them in as chair people. But because we've got 2 nominations from each of the regions, we will be sending out voting to our members to vote in a regional and a vice chair. The demographic of our current members is as follows. We have a 67% female to 33% male ratio. We have 54% African members to a 46% white member demographic, and 58% of our members are African female representation. The key issues that were highlighted from our members was board diversity, the clarity on MOUs signed with other professional bodies, SDFs asking for COVID recovery plans for SDPs, as they can see there are serious challenges, director benchmarking with other professional bodies, performance requirements and cost implications, considerations for a student or candidacy membership fee at a reduced or subsidized rate, compliance in every industry by ensuring that every submitted workplace skills plan or annual training report is done by a designated SDF, tenure for committees, exco and board members, requests for automated systems for CPD and an integrated website, links to all SACWA, CETA, DHET and QCTO, etc., and contact details of board and exco members to be published on our website. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of feedback. So board diversity, we have kept board diversity a top of mind, and the 3 new board members will be highlighted in the presentation shortly after my delivery, and you will see that it is going to be changing drastically. Currently, it is sitting at a 25% ratio from a BEE perspective, but it is going to be changing shortly after my address to a 60% board member diversity. We have signed 2 MOUs, and they are essentially on RPL, CPD, and legislation that overlaps. They will not relate to a reduction in fees for members, as we all operate as independent professional bodies in various different spheres. And there are no overlaps when it comes to the membership fees. So we're not going to be discounting any membership fees at this stage. Recovery for COVID is a challenge for all companies. And I know that it has been a challenge for most companies from the start of when COVID hit. I'm not too sure what the answer is on how we can actually undertake recovery plans, because there isn't actually an answer in mind. I think the best is for us to look at how we can possibly diversify our businesses as best we possibly can. And without diversification, there needs to be collaboration. So that's the best that we can do, is try and collaborate, try and diversify, and try and upskill as best we possibly can. The director benchmarking with other professional bodies, we've had a look at this. The director benchmarking is approximately 10 directors is what the usual is for most other professional bodies. It's a general, but the difference between our professional body and other professional bodies is generally the other professional bodies is that those directors are remunerated. Our directors are not remunerated. They are, ours is completely voluntary. So our directors are not remunerated because our professional body does not have the funds and budgets to remunerate any of our committee members, any of our volunteers, any of our exco, or any of our board members at this stage. So until we have a membership base that can add to that, we will review it at that stage. We will make considerations for a student or candidacy membership fee and look at that in the future. Industry compliant SDFs is, for us, it is an absolute dream. That is exactly what we are working towards. We would like to see every organization that submits a workplace skills plan or annual training report to have a designated SDF. So from that perspective, we would like to see industry having a designated SDF, or at least be a member of the ASDSA, because then you are signing a code of ethics. We know that the standard is going to be uplifted. We know that we are going to be upskilling our SDFs and working towards a specific set of best practices. So we are all for that. Achieving that, again, is a completely different story. So that is what we've been working towards, and we will definitely take that into consideration going forward. Tenure of committees, exco and board members. At present, our MOI does not include any specific tenure of our committees, exco and board members. At our AGM, we just generally ask our members to agree that we are happy with the current tenure of our board members and our exco and our committees. But what we will be introducing from February next year is that we will be voting in the current board members, the exco and the committee members. So we will be putting out a vote to all of our members, advising who the current members are, and sending out an expression of interest for any of you that would like to be putting yourselves forward or nominating anybody for those committees. Please just bear in mind that there are specific terms of reference that need to be met, and key performance indicators, because there is a lot of work to be done, and we are going to be requesting your time to serve on those various committees. The requests for automated systems for CPD and integrated websites, links to SAQA, CETA, DHET, and QCTO. We already have links to all of our CETA websites, and there are various links to some of those websites. The automated CPD, we have reminders already set for CPD, but automated CPD systems are extremely expensive. We have done our research. It costs hundreds of thousands of rands. Unless any of our members would like to give us a corporate social investment donation, or know where we could be given some kind of donation from a corporate sponsor, I would gladly put an automated system in. But at this stage, it is not something that is within our budgetary capability. So we will continue to work on it, but it is not something that we are able to afford at this stage. We've done the best that we can with the limited resources that we have, but our website is currently up to date and does have various links to the CETAs and the QCTO, as far as I am aware from our systems officer. The contact details of the board and exco members is on our website as well. Moving on to our focus for 2022. We are going to be expanding on our CPD program, more focus, just more information going out to our members, making sure that all of our members are compliant, ensuring that we are submitting all our CPD report cards, and then also doing verification of those, because we are required to do a 10% verification on those CPD record cards as per our policy. We're seeking a corporate social and investment and funding for our online platform, and we're also looking to expand on upskilling through workshops. So we will be doing workshops on CPD, professional designations, and automation. We want to continue our stakeholder engagement, continue with our lobbying and advocacy, applying for funding for skills programs. And our next planning and strat sessions will be held in November this year and January next year, which is the normal time that we start holding our strategy planning sessions for 2022. I just again would like to say to the best team that I have worked with, and the reason why I give up at least 2 to 3 weeks on most months of my time. I run my own small business, but I give up a lot of my own free time to actually participate in this amazing organization. And the reason why I give up my free time is because I'm extremely passionate about, number one, the ASDSA, number two, the skills development landscape, and number three, the team that I work with. And without them and their passion and the dedication that they show to this organization, I would not be able to do what I do, and as well as I do it. So I just want to say to the regional chairs, the Angelique, Tracy, Kristen, those three ladies that do that fantastic work in the background. Jonathan Brawns, that is actually one of our board members that does a lot of our advocacy in the background. John Arneson, that is also one of our board members that does amazing work in the background and is not always mentioned. Josie, that often participates and gives us advice. Corin Della, that often gives us advice and assists us from time to time. Andy Reinecker, that has been an amazing for me, an amazing mentor, and constant phone calls get made day and night, late into the night. I just want to say to the team at ASDSA, thank you very much for being such an amazing team. You give up a lot of your time, and you do that without any compensation. And I really do appreciate everything that you put into the ASDSA. It's made the organization what it is today, and I do appreciate it. And that is my story. I just want to open the floor now to give everybody a chance to ask the questions, and if there are any queries and questions, we can open the floor now to queries and questions. Thank you very much, everybody.
A lot of thank you comments, and a final word from Dr. Reddy. Thanks for the opportunity to speak at the AGM. It was a pleasure to share my views on micro-credentials as it relates to our NQF with you. And she needs to leave, but conveys her best wishes to us.
Thank you, Sharon. I currently have load shedding running on hotspot, so hopefully you won't lose me somewhere. I'm keeping the camera off as just the connection is really unstable here with me. I thank Angelique for assisting with sharing the presentation for me. I will provide feedback on the following, being the voting results of 2021, and then the ASDSA board vacancies. So on the next slide, you can see that we received 6 nominations that have been placed in alphabetical order, being Felicity Havenga, Marsha Pieterse, Nicolette Oberholzer, Nishi Singh, Tanya Rode, and Yolande Tui. The company memorandum of incorporation of ASDSA specify the quorum requirements, and I quote, 3.2 proceedings at the members' meetings, 3.2.1 business by transacted at many members' meeting only while quorum is present, and 3.2.2 the quorum at a members' meeting on for a matter to be decided at the members' meeting shall be the holders of at least 25% of the voting rights, which may be exercised in respect of at least one matter to be decided at the meeting or in respect of the matter in question, provided that if the company has more than 2 members, an additional quorum requirement shall be at the least 3 members are present at this meeting. We have currently 297 members, and we received 91 votes, which result in a 31% participation, whereas the MOI requires a 25% for a quorum to accept the voting. Then the next slide, you can see the voting results. 97% of those who voted approved the minutes. 98% of those who voted approved the annual financial statements of 31 March 2021. 99% of those who voted approved the appointment of BDV Platinum as the external auditors again. And 97% of those who voted approved the increase of board members to a maximum of 10 directors. We do accept these results and record it accordingly. Then the vetting and voting process of the new board members was sent to Mark Dawson to review. We received feedback on the 12th of October 21, and I quote, I have reviewed the documentation and the procedures adopted and can confirm that all appears to be in line with the requirements of your MOI. In addition, we have checked the details of the voting forms against the voter control sheet, and there's agreement between these. We thank Mark for the contribution. Please meet the 3 new board members. Nishi Singh, Tanya Rode, and Yolande Tui. The ASDSA board already approved these appointments. We welcome the three members to the board family. We are very excited to have them on the team. Their skills, talents, experience will be great addition to ASDSA, and we hope they will enjoy working with us. That's all, folks. I thank you. Over to Sharon.
So I just want to say a huge congratulations to our 3 new board members. We obviously will be engaging with the 3 new board members in the coming week, and be confirming all of their board appointments with them, and ensuring that that they are all happy with the terms of reference that they need to accept, and what their responsibilities will be and their focus areas. I'm just opening the floor again to anybody that had any queries, but I've had a look through the questions. I think everybody was happy, and please don't forget, in the chat is the link to get your CPD points. Please don't forget to go and click on that link. I think we are done with our AGM for 2021. If you have any further queries or questions, please don't hesitate to send us emails on exco@asdsa.org.za. We will make all of the presentations available to our members. There will also be a recording on YouTube for anybody to listen to if they had to leave a little bit earlier. But thank you very much to everybody. And again, thank you to my amazing team. And thank you again to Dr. J Reddy. She was an absolutely brilliant speaker. She has always been very keen to engage with us, and we really appreciate all of her participation and engagement. And to our 3 new board members, welcome to the team. Thank you, everybody. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day.